Okay, machinists, this little video is to show you how to modify the G-code to make the CNC router cut the holes for your axles in the right spots. You see, when you designed your car and your billet, you might have moved the axle holes from where they were originally, which means that when you write your G-code, you need to tell the CNC router how far from the center of this canister hole, which is where our 0 point for axes is, are these new holes. We've got to tell it how far in the Y direction, or this 2 number here, to move down to drill the axle holes, and then how far in the X direction, 1, and then 3 to move to drill the axle holes. And this is supposed to be a representation of the billet, and there's the back of the billet with the canister hole and the tether line guide. And this is going to be based on the car seat. We need to take measurements 1, 2, and 3 off our inventor view or our inventor program in order to change this G-code down here. Now, this G-code down here you see is the same G-code you typed in when you made your very first car. The Z values don't change, but as I said before, we need to change the X values and the Y values. There's 2 X values we've got to change, 1 for each axle, and 1 Y value we've got to change it down a certain depth from the canister. So let's find out how to find these values 1, 2, and 3. What you've got to do is open up your final compliant car, the One U Ashcorner machine in Inventor. This is my final car seat version on Inventor. And what I want to do is I want to find the sketch that's got the actual first drawings of those axle holes on it. Now for me, if I press escape for a second so I can have a look, that was sketch 7. That's that sketch there where I can drew my first axle holes. So I actually want to go in and I want to edit that sketch. So I'm going to right click on that and choose edit sketch. Once again it runs away, so I've got to try and bring it back. I just want to zoom in a little bit more just so I can see both axle holes on the same screen. Great. Now all I need to do is just take a few measurements. So I might just put on this view here. This is the cutaway view so I can see a bit more clearly. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to click on the back wall. I'm going to drag down, and that's going to be, for me, that's 32. I'm going to click again, and it tells me adding this dimension will over constraint and sketch. Choose accept to create a driven dimension. That's what I was looking for, a driven dimension. They're dimensions that can't change the size of your car. They're just dimensions that show you the size of the car. So I'm going to click accept there. That's my first value there. I'm then going to click on the center of that axle hole there, and then click and then drag down on the back of the car there, and make that dimension there. Click again. Once again, yes, making it a driven dimension. And straight away I've got 2 of the values I need, 32 and 155. The last dimension I need, I want to find the dimension that is between that axle hole, which should be the same height as the other axle hole, and this bottom line. So I'm going to drag that sideways a bit. And once again, it's a driven dimension. So I'll click accept. And for me, that is 9.5. So I might quickly go back and put them in. So from the back of the car, this first axle was 32. So, which for me is the back of the car to that first axle. So 1 for me is 32. Let's go back to Inventor. From the back of the car to the front axle, 155. So I'm going to put in there, that's my number 3. So I'll put in 155. Now, for this other dimension, I haven't actually mentioned number 2. All I've measured is the distance from the bottom up to the top. For me, that was, I think it was 9.5. I've got to double check. Yeah, that was 9.5. So I'm going to put in brackets here 9.5. That's not the actual number I'm looking for, but it's the number I'm going to need. Okay, let's go back to inventory again. So that's the first measurements I need. I might just finish that sketch off just there. And now I'm going to hunt for one more sketch. I'm going to try and turn my car out to the back so I can see the back of my car. Okay, and now I want to find the sketch where I first drew this rear shape of the car in this first hole at the back. So let's see, which sketch was that? Sketch 6, it could be for me. Sketch 6, so I'm going to click on sketch 6, right click. I'm going to edit that sketch, and I can see that from the very center of the canister hole, this dot here in the very center of the canister, that's our 0 point for our cutting. So that's the point we want to measure from. And I can see from that 0 point to the bottom of my car there is 30 mils. And if I come back to my picture, that means I know from the center right to the bottom, this bottom line here, that's 30 mils, but I also know the distance between my axle holes in the bottom is 9.5 mils. So if I'm trying to find distance number 2, that's actually going to be 30. Take away 9.5, which for me will be 20.5 mils. And there we have it. I've got all the measurements I need. I can go back to Inventor now. I can just finish that sketch. I haven't changed anything at all. That's all I've done. I haven't changed anything. Actually, before I skip Inventor, one thing I've got to check. I've put the billet support at the front. You make the billet support the same way you made the billet support for your first car, and it's a good way to check your car is actually going to fit in the billet, because if you look at the front here, this billet support is the exact right size, 65 mils by 50 mils. I can't see any of my car sticking around the outsides. That means my car will actually fit inside the billet. If you've got wings sticking up here or axles sticking out the side or even side pods sticking out the side, they will not fit inside the billet, so you need to cut that down. Okay, so something you might need to think about. So let's go back to here though. Here is where I'm going to put my new G-code in. So when I'm going to type my G-code in, I'm going to type in a different G-code. So the first line of the modified G-code we used to type in for the old axles started off with G00X something, but now we're going to put a different number. This is where we put the negative of measurement 1. So measurement 1 for me was 32, so I'm going to put in X minus 32. And that's my first modification to the G-code, and I'll put that in red so we can see it's a modification. The next one is Y here. It says, no, this is where you put measurement 2. Now we don't need to make it negative, we just got to put 20.5, so here's Y 20.5. That's my second measurement I've put in. I'll highlight it in red so you can see that. And the last thing I've got to change is this one down here, G00X something. I've got to put the negative of measurement 3 in. Now measurement 3 for me was 155, so I type in X minus 155. I'll highlight that in red as well. And done. That's all you've got to do, machinists, to put your axle holes in. Once you've written that G-code, that should hopefully drill the holes in the right spots.